dog never stopped staring at the wall until the owner installed surveillance cameras. George, a single man in a city, eventually started to want some company. This led him to adopt his puppy, Crosby. Shortly after, they formed a great bond. George would describe Crosby as one of the most loyal and sweet animals you'll ever meet. As he took him to the parks, he would bond with literally anyone he came across, from cats to other dogs and the other dogs' owners as well. Crosby also became great friends with his neighbors' pets, a cat and a dog. Over the years, Crosby formed a great companionship with both the cat and the dog, until, unfortunately, after 8 years, Crosby had to say goodbye to both his companions as they sadly passed away. Shortly afterwards, Crosby began to change his behavior. George was used to Crosby always greeting him the second he got home. But this time, when George got home, Crosby wasn't there. He called and called for Crosby, but he wouldn't answer any of his calls. After searching everywhere in the house, he would find Crosby staring at a wall. Finding this quite strange, he continued to call his dog, but he wouldn't budge an inch. George thought to himself, could Crosby just be getting old and losing his hearing? He eventually came down to Crosby's level and began to pet him. And eventually, he finally snapped out of it. Relieved to see Crosby was okay, he takes him to another room. Maybe it was just the neighbors making noise or something. Crosby acted normal throughout the night, and George went to bed. Later on, George woke up at midnight feeling parched before heading for a glass of water. And he looked around for Crosby, but could not find him. And to his surprise, there he was again staring at the wall. Unsure of what to think of the situation, he brought Crosby upstairs once more. Confused and wanting answers, George decided he needed to get to the bottom of this mystery. He rushed over to the store first thing in the morning to buy a night vision surveillance camera. He let the camera record for a full day before deciding to see what was up with his pup and this mystery wall. As he returned home from work the next day, Crosby was not at the door to greet him, but at the wall again to no surprise this time. George went straight to his computer to look at the footage, and after reviewing the video surveillance, it was quite shocking. The first thing he noticed is Crosby was never at the wall when George wasn't around, but only when he was around. The dog owner thought to himself, could Crosby be trying to tell me something? George returned to the wall to give it a full inspection. And here came Crosby into the room, barking excitedly. He had never seen his dog so excited in months. As George dropped down to get a good look at the wall, the dog continued to bark, but George couldn't see anything at all. Looking around the entire area of the wall, he decided to put his hand on the wall, where eventually he would hear a noise. George's heartbeat began to race shortly after. As he looked at Crosby, touching the wall, pieces of drywall began to fall off, which revealed a hole. Terrified at first, George decides to put his hand inside to venture and figure out what's really been in his house this whole time. Feeling something soft at first, he grabbed it, but it was only a combination of dirt, drywall, and insulation. George continued to dig, and he heard a cry. Uncertain of what lies behind the wall, he did a little more reaching, and a small kitten was revealed. The poor kitten was in rough shape. As George took it from behind the damaged wall, Crosby was ecstatic. George immediately searched for the owner, and he figured his dog Crosby may have had something to do with this. Nobody in the area had ever seen the little kitten before, so it was assumed to be a stray. George posted pictures of the kitten online to see if anyone would reach out to him. With no avail, and him being left completely clueless on how this kitten ended up in his house, his initial choice was to take the kitten to the vet to be cared for and to find its shelter. The kitten had its injuries treated successfully, However, George was unable to find its shelter. He decided to take it to the animal shelter, where he was sadly informed that there was no room left. 300 kittens were already checked in, and if the new kitten were left with them, he would unfortunately be put down. George had too big of a heart to turn his back on the stray kitten, so this led him to taking him in to live with him and Crosby. George was never too big of a cat guy, but Crosby was definitely happy to have a new friend around. The kitten was named Lil Ray Ray. Seeing Crosby so happy with the new cat let him know that he made the best choice. It reminded him of how happy he used to be when he played with his friends that passed. George took a liking to his new addition in his house and also noted to pay more attention when his dog might be trying to send him a message. Well, that's all we got for you in this video. We hope you enjoyed it. If so, please be sure to let us know your favorite part, and we'll catch you in the next one.